Today, hanging out with Bay Ragni, Chubby Dudley, the host of the Bay Ragni Show, and my friend, Bay Ragni. How are you feeling this afternoon, mister?
I am beautiful, Mr. Castle. Beautiful. How the hell are you doing? Dude, I've never had an intro to a show I've been on like that.
Good, good. I want everything that you experience here this afternoon to be the first time it's ever been that way.
Hey,
Like
let's go for it.
I really wanted, and when I made this promise to myself to start this podcast, and everybody who's ever started a podcast made a promise to themselves starting it out. Like I'm sure you like I was like I want it to be something that's not like every other thing, and it doesn't fit a genre. It doesn't have its own niche. It is everything. It is its own niches. It
Hmm.
doesn't fit into any other thing. So like you're not going to hear the same things on here that you're going to hear every other time you've heard somebody being a guest on something. Yeah, like I'm a huge podcast fan. I listen to tons of podcasts, and like a lot of them share the same guests, and they're all
Yeah,
kind of like they're talking about kind of the same stuff a whole bunch. And I'm
sure.
like, I don't really think that I'm as interested in talking about that same stuff as much as I don't think my guests or my audience is going to want to hear the same stuff they may have already heard that person talk about on every other show uh, in the little junket that they're doing, and they're in their tour of being guests on people's podcasts.
When I just did in the last year doing that press tour for the TWA show, I mean, I probably did 30, 40 different podcasts. And it's funny because for the most part, it was like 75% all the same stuff over and over. But then
Hmm.
you have the ones that are really go out of the circle or above and beyond, and they did deep research, or they just have some wild, interesting, unique questions, and it kind of throws you off because you're like, whoa, all right, well, where did this come from? And then it just opens up a crazy, amazing conversation.
So I thought it'd be important for us to talk about this. I know we'll get to us like you're talking about TWA and any of the things you'd like to share. If you just kind of want to get things off your chest, that's fully fine too. I realize I just said we're not going to talk about all the same stuff you talk about on every other podcast, and I know you've been on every other podcast talking about this sort of thing
Yeah,
at this current moment, and I know like you're getting a lot of press for talking about this. And you were just interviewed by Mike Johnson, and like that.
yeah.
It's a whole everything is big on in on talking Chubby Dudley Bay Ragni, but another part of me talking about like having a podcast and having guests on. I always wanted to have something that's unique that no other host is going to give that person. I want to make sure I tell you exactly, what significance you have to me, and I don't even know if you know this. You might, but you might not. We may have talked about it, but we may not have.
Okay.
When I was a young Mark, when I was a young wrestling fan, um, I used to call your hotline
Oh my god.
to listen to the wrestling news on your. I was 12. I was 11, 12 years old, calling and listening to you talk about the because podcasts weren't a thing yet.
Nah, not at all.
Podcasts weren't a thing yet. And this was just like a podcast, except you had to call it and you listen to it, and then you'd call
Right.
and you'd be like, "Oh, they didn't update it yet." And call like, "Oh, they didn't update it yet," and then call and then, "Oh, they're updating it," and then sit there and listen to the whole thing. And like, it, it wasn't like it costs money or anything.
Yeah.
It was just it was just the people's time to actually just call it and listen to it. But I would call it, and I think a lot of my wrestling fandom, a lot of my dude, pro wrestling changed my life for sure.
Sure,
And
absolutely.
discovering pro wrestling and being a part of pro wrestling and hearing some of these names and then growing up to have worked with some of these names and like be on the level, if not like a
Hmm.
higher level than some of the names that like to me when I hear you talk about them, I'd be like, these are all important people. And I wanted to be spoken about as important, like you would talk about those people. And now that kind of fills in a little bit of the blanks. And I remember you gave, I don't know if you gave yourself this nickname, but the Silver Fox Bay Ragni
No, who did? Somebody
was
said
was
that
that
recently.
well, I was going to say that was the first time I ever heard Silver Fox. I've heard that now a bunch of times for other.
Somebody said that recently on a podcast. I think because we were talking
I didn't
about gray
I didn't
hairs or
even realize it
something.
had to do with gray hair. I just thought
Yeah.
you were calling yourself like I was a kid. I didn't know it meant anything about gray hair. I thought it was just a. I just thought it was like a cunning, like smart, like, like silver's fancy,
there,
and foxes are cunning and smart.
there you go. There you go. That's funny.
So
It's funny because that old that era and that time of those the wrestling phone lines, the hotlines. I like until you brought that up, like it was something like I totally forgot about. I mean,
mm,
that was like 30 years ago. That was early mid 90 or mid late 90s,
mhm,
and it was yeah, that was way before podcasting.
yeah,
The internet was still kind of new at the time, and um, I had hooked on with MJ Wright and his hotline, and he used
right.
to ask me to fill in on days. And then I can't even remember. Did I start my own after MJ stopped? I can't even remember.
Mhm. Right. Yeah. I completely forgot about that guy. I forgot his name, but um, I remember hearing, listening to his podcast and
Hmm.
or his hotline
Hmm.
and hearing him talking with you on there. And I talked to my friend Nick. You know Nick Burke, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course.
And he was telling me a story. I don't even know if I can share this story, but
I think didn't Nick have a hotline too at one time? I think
I don't remember. I
I
think
think he
Trent
did.
Johnny had one at one point.
Maybe.
Um, e- either way, around that whole backseat manifesto time,
Hmm.
they did that, and then the uh, the story that Nick Burke was telling me because I was telling him about you, and I was telling him about listening to those hotlines and calling that stuff with you. And this was probably years ago, so I remembered to say the MJ Wright's name, but I had completely forgot about it. And Nick Burke said that he once was at a show. It was not even a show. He said it was maybe like a backyard wrestling thing.
Okay.
And he said that that dude slipped on dog poop, and that's the only memory he has of that guy. That he was a guy
Really?
who slipped in dog poop at a backyard wrestling show.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
What a memory.
So that's when you mentioned his name, that was the memory that popped into my head. Nick's memory of that dude slipping in dog poop at a backyard wrestling show.
That's funny. He ended up like when I was running consistent shows in that time from 99 to '02. He was my commentator. He was one of my commentators and he did a phenomenal job. He was like a super talented dude with a great speaking voice, and he was very enthusiastic, and
Mhm.
he knew how to call and be the straight color guy,
Yeah,
and it just worked. And I was like, damn, like dude's got talent.
that's just neat, man.
But
You need
now I'm
somebody.
gonna laugh. I'm gonna think of every time I see him on Facebook. I'm gonna think he slipped in dog poop.
there's a like a viral YouTube video that was like It was like they made like this like basketball song, and the there were these kids like rapping, and
Okay.
they said, "Why is James crying? Cause he just got dunked on." And they were doing basketball, and they said something. There was a part in the song in the video where like James went up for an alley oop, and
Okay.
he slipped in a pile of dog poop, and then
Look,
they're
you're
like,
making rhymes over there.
"Right, yeah." Oh, well, it's not my rhymes. I took them from this
Oh, okay.
Froggy Fresh
Okay.
kid. And he was like, and then for the rest of the day, we called him Captain Poopy Shoes. So, Captain Poopy Shoes lives again.
Oh, wrong. So wrong. The poopy shoes. Oh, poor MJ.
Yes, yes. I don't think I ever met the guy, but um, was it at the time? Oh, geez, this is silly because this is such young kid memories for me to think about this because I was real young, and it's funny because kids nowadays do this to me, talking about growing up watching me or growing up uh, being around and like being a mark for me and stuff. So it's funny that it comes full circle,
Sure.
but I remember I think in the in the show, he talked about that he worked at Old Navy or something at the time,
What the hell did he work
and
at? No, no,
at Old
no.
Navy,
He-
and
I want
might
to
have
say Taco Bell. He was
okay,
like
maybe
a manager at Taco Bell for the longest time. Yeah.
well, well, let's all keep on circling back to Poopy.
I was going to say, yeah, maybe that was the connection to the poop.
Well, I mean, the dog wasn't eating Taco Bell.
You don't know that.
You don't know.
It very well could have been all Taco Bell influenced. And Corey's new sponsor of the show is Taco Bell.
Bung. So,
And butt wipes.
I I have to say, um, I don't know how many people are sleeping on this, and maybe it's time to stop. Maybe put your bias down for a second. But I got a bidet installed on my toilet,
Ooh, I
and
want to have this conversation. Go ahead.
it is a game changer. Wipes gone. Never use those again. It's like it's spoiled me. I can't go out in public. I have to have a home game every time.
Dude, okay. A guy at my work, he had this discussion with me. It says the same thing. Like, and I'm like, how could it really, does it get in there and do the proper cleaning job?
Well, I mean, it doesn't do everything. You still have to run it over once with a paper, but it's it's more sanitary than wiping it with dry paper back up around. It's better. Th-
Okay. Hey,
This
hey,
episode brought to you by Hello Tushy.
and he said like, and maybe this is what you did too. He's like, dude, it was like $35 off of Amazon.
Yeah, I bought one. So at my old apartment, my roommate, we both had separate bathrooms.
Okay.
I I bought him one for Christmas, and it was like $35. Like you can get them at like Walmart. They're it's like fruit at the grocery store. They're giving it away. Like it's cheap, and and it's better for you than what you're already getting. Like just take the fruit.
And it helps saves the environment because you're using less paper.
And also like you're not messing your pipes up with these wipes.
Yeah.
I had a girl on my podcast. I I'm gonna say because it was so long ago. I would say whatever the gimmick was, whatever the whole reason that we were having this conversation, it was that she had just got back from a year teaching kids English in like Singapore or something.
Okay.
So it was either Thailand or Singapore, and she was over there uh, teaching English to these kids, and um, I had a conversation with her about like what was the toilet situation like. This is going back to this is not the same podcast that
Yeah.
everybody is gonna. I asked her what the toilet situation was, and she informed me about how over there they use bidets, but they call them bum guns.
Okay. Fun
and she
guns.
and then she said, "Do yourself a favor and get one. It's going to change your life." And at the time, I was like, "I'll stick with my wet wipes. Thank you very much. That's I don't want nothing spraying my bunghole. Like that's weird." And once I put down my that's weird bias, it's a game changer.
I gotta get on board with these things. I gotta get one.
Get you a bum gun.
I gotta show some love to my bun.
I actually had this conversation with my dad recently. I was like, dude, it's gonna change your life. I've never met another person who was more intrigued with poop and like laughing at pooping and farting and all kinds of butt stuff as my dad.
Well, see, this is where I was thrown off with the whole world of bidets because when I was like a teenager, one of my good friends, his parents, they had their bathroom that was in their bedroom redone. And
Mm.
I remember they had a bidet installed, but it was a separate toilet. So
Yeah,
you would do your business on the one toilet and then get up and go sit on the other one and get cleaned. And I thought that was the weirdest fucking thing. So
that's a
in my
whole other.
mind, yeah, I can still picture like the two fucking toilet bowls. So when this dude said to me, it was just a few months ago in work about the bidet, I'm like, how did you afford a bidet? I'm like, he's like, what do you mean, dude? He's like, I got it off Amazon for $35. I'm like, what do you mean? I was like so blown away. He's like, dude, you get it and you just fucking screw it onto your toilet seat. I'm like, what? It
Yeah,
sounds like it's like a ray gun now. You strap to your toilet seat.
it's a spray gun,
Yeah,
not a ray gun.
it's a whole wild world going on out there.
Bidazed and confused.
There you go. The new podcast,
Yes,
but nothing
podcast
but bidet stories.
about bidets.
There you go, and it goes on for days. Oh shit.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about the whole TWA thing.
Mhm.
But before we kind of like get into the yuck of it, let's focus more on the yum of it and the rewarding parts of it and the enjoyable parts of organizing this event and really like what you liked about it before we get into the into the weeds of yuck.
There was a lot on both ends, so yeah.
Mhm. So uh, I know you did when you ran your own shows. Those
Mhm.
you didn't book for TWA back in the day, right?
No, no, I
You
went
did the
to
Liberty All Star,
wrestling.
right?
Yeah, I went to wrestling school at
Mhm.
TWA. I started my training in September of '90, and by the time I was ready to finally debut in early '92 is when Joel Goodhart closed up Tri-State Wrestling Line. So I never officially debuted for Joel and TWA. But everybody knew I was part of it because I was there for almost 2 years training, and I was at a lot of the shows throughout the area. So, and getting to know not only the people behind the scenes in the locker room, but a lot of the hardcore Philly fans over that time.
Right. Okay. How how deep into your training did you then start joining the Dudley family and the camp of the Dudleys and
So,
doing that type of thing?
so that happened. Actually, that was 5 years later. So when Joel went out of business in January of '92, um, right afterwards is when Todd Gordon, who was one of Joel's backers, partnered up with Bob Artiste and Larry Winters and Steve Truitt, and they formed ECW, Eastern Championship Wrestling. And a couple months into that, I was doing the same thing. I was still coming to all the shows, hanging around, getting to meet Todd and and but he really didn't know me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then finally, I was part of the tag team, the Hell Riders, and we were given a tryout. Todd used to be a president or vice president of a local charity and the Variety Club. Was it Variety? I think it was Variety Club. And he would do a every summer he would do a free show at the Variety Club camp, and we had our tryout there. The Hell Riders. It was me and my partner HD, and we had a match against Stevie Richards and the Delaware Dynamo. So we worked our first match, and Todd's like, "I love it. I love you guys. You guys are booked." And then he started booking us. So we were doing that, and then we got the TV contract, and we were on TV. And Eddie Gilbert came in, and then a short time after Eddie came in, he slowly was clearing house, and we were one of the casualties to go.
Mm-hmm.
And that was in '93. And then I started working on putting together Liberty All Star Wrestling. Started promoting shows with Frank Cody and Lucky Larry were my two partners. And then the Dudleys started in '95. At that point, it's now Extreme Championship Wrestling. And Steve Richards called me up and said, "Hey, we got this new gimmick, the Dudleys. I think you would be a perfect fit for. Do you want to come in?" So he introduced me to Paul, and the rest is history.
That's awesome. did, did you know? Did you know my partner on my podcast, Lou Marconi? Did you know Beef Stew Lou?
I know the name. I don't know if I ever met him.
Okay, because a lot of times I'll be talking to you know a, I'll be talking to somebody and having a big long talk, and then I'll never bring up Lou, and then they'll be like, "Why didn't you ever talk about Lou? Everybody knows Lou. Everybody loves Lou," and I'm like, "I don't know. I don't know."
If I, you know what, if I saw a picture, I'm probably like, "Oh, I know Lou."
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So how did if you can take me on the journey,
Hmm.
if you could take me on the journey, how did you get from point A to point B to point C when it came to like you were promoting shows, but then you were also doing the totally driven, right? So you're doing that, and you're then that journey took you down to Nashville. How did that whole
All right. So
thing transpire?
the journey of the transition of my life. Like I was saying, promoting Liberty All Star Wrestling, very, hardcore, really trying to make it happen. Was from '99 to '02. Go out of business in '02. But the one thing I was doing in that time too was we had a weekly AM radio show, Top Rope Radio, and
Mm,
I loved doing it. And I always wanted to do, like a Howard Stern thing. I loved Howard Stern.
right.
So the internet was just coming along, and I kept trying to figure out a way how to do, because I didn't have the money to buy airtime every week and do weekly radio shows. So I was like trying to figure out how to do something online, and little by little, the whole podcasting thing started to evolve, and I started doing podcasting 13 years ago. I think it was 13 years ago. Um,
Did
started
you
what was
jump in on the blog talk radio fad?
I that's exactly what I was on. I was on Blog Talk Radio because that gave you the ability to go live. And I
Hmm.
always, even today when I do my shows, I go live because I like it to be live. I like to have interaction. I love the live aspect way better. It's just something that I've always done. And also too, especially now, it's a lot easier just so I don't have to stop. I don't have time to sit and edit and go
Yeah.
back and re-upload. Just fucking do it live. That's how I roll. So, um, we did Totally Driven Radio for I think it was like 8 years. We were live every Thursday night. We did like 1,000 plus interviews, 350 live shows, and at that point in time in my life, I was starting to go through a divorce, and I had won a contest to come to Nashville for a podcast convention,
Oh,
and came to Nashville. Ended up meeting the love of my life, and next thing I know, 6 weeks later, I'm moving to Nashville, and I moved to Nashville and started my life completely over.
was that ever a thing you ever thought about? You ever
No,
do? Never.
I can't tell you how many times in those 1,000 plus interviews I did, I discussed with stars and celebrities and musicians making that move where they would make that jump to LA, to New York, to Nashville. And I'm like, dude, weren't you fucking scared? Like, I would be horrified to do it. And next thing I know, I put myself in that predicament and I was honestly not scared at all. It was weird because I was not scared and I was like, fuck it, I'm taking a leap. And that's what I did.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. How did you meet this one? Tell me the story if you can.
Okay, it's a crazy fucking story. So, from the world of podcasting, so her sister was on a reality show on VH1, and this, God, it's like over 10 years ago. It was called Dating Naked.
Hmm.
And I saw the show. She was the first contestant on this dating show on VH1 where they went on dates naked.
Hmm.
And I see her and I'm like, I got to interview this girl because I'm like, this girl went on this show and I could just tell she was really looking for love. It was like, I was baffled. Like, I'm like, you're going on a TV dating show and I can tell she was seriously looking for love.
And
So
and
I
and they were like shoot nude.
shoot nude.
Hmm.
So I track her down and she agrees to do an interview. So do an interview, hit it off, become friends. She comes back to me 6 months later and says, "Hey, me and my sister are filming a reality show, um, and we're doing stand-up comedy, and we have some other things going on. Would you do an interview with us?" I'm like, "Yeah, fuck yeah, of course." So do an interview, and we just clicked, like instantly clicked, me and the sister, and like when I got done the interview, I literally sat back in my chair and I felt it in my heart. I was like, "Wow, the fuck just happened?" Like I seriously felt it. So then me and her sister, Coco, we hit it off, become friends. So over time and over the years, we become friends. And then my marriage was going downhill and I wanted to get out. And about 6 months before I finally decided to get separated from my wife and start the divorce process, Coco says to me, she goes, at this point her sister's getting married to somebody not from the dating show but getting married, and she says, I wish you were my date for the wedding. And I was like, I fucking knew it. I knew you liked me. I knew it. I knew it. So at that point I was just like, you know what, like, I'm going to be 50 years old in a year. I got to straighten my life out and find happiness because I'm not happy in my marriage. It's not fair to not only me, but it's not fair to my partner and it's not fair to
Not
my
at all.
children. It's not fair to
Hmm.
nobody. And
Yeah.
I told my ex I wanted a divorce. And next thing I know, 2 weeks later, after I tell her, I won the contest to come to Nashville. And I I called up my future girlfriend at that point. I said, hey, and she kept saying, you're never coming to Nashville. You're never going to leave Philly. So don't even think about pursuing me.
Mhm.
2 weeks after I told my ex I win the contest, I call her up. I said, see you in 2 months. I just won a contest. I'll be in Nashville. And
Mhm.
once we met in person, it was instant sparks, and the rest is history.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And it all started via podcasts.
All from freaking podcasting.
The
Yep.
first conversation you had with her was on the podcast.
Yeah. Yep.
I did that. I did that too. The first conversation with the woman I'm about to marry was on my podcast.
Now,
The first,
why was she on your podcast? What did she do?
she was a contestant on a Netflix singing reality show
Oh,
uh,
okay.
called Sing On, and a mutual friend reached out and was like, "Hey, you should interview my friend Alyssa. She was just on this Netflix show." And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely, I'm down to do that." And then she connected us on like a three-way chat on Facebook
Okay.
Messenger, and then we organized all the details to sit down and do a podcast. And then, I was using StreamYard at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and then after we were done the podcast, we stayed on the stream for hours just
Wow.
talking, and and we and I don't think I didn't go into that ever expecting it to
Sure.
be like a love situation. I
Yeah.
didn't think of it like a flirting situation. I wanted it to be a good podcast. Like I
Right.
wanted it to be entertaining show. And then after like showing her all this music that I liked, and her showing me all this music that she liked, and us kind of like just bonding over a bunch of stuff, I was like, "Where do you live?" And she said, "In Delco." And
No shit. I was gonna say, was she in the Philly area?
yeah, she said, "In Delco." And then I was like, I looked it up, and it was only 40 minutes away from me. And I said, "Let's hang out. Let's hang out." So we hung out. We hung out that Wednesday, and
Okay.
then we've been together since.
That's
That
awesome.
was almost 5 years ago.
That's awesome. Congrats,
Yes,
dude. Congrats.
thanks, man. Thank you. And I'm getting married next year. It's actually on the 26th of June next year.
Okay.
So it's about to be, in 10 days, it'll be a year away.
And that shit'll come quick.
Yeah. I'm excited and nervous, and all the things that you're feeling. I'm feeling all of them.
Yeah, we got engaged. We're actually coming up on our 6 year anniversary, but we'll be engaged for 4 years. We just, you know, life has thrown us a lot of curveballs throughout
You've been
time,
living
and
down there. You've been living down there for that long,
September will be 6 years since I've been here.
dude. I had no idea. I
Yeah.
thought this whole time that you were here.
No, no.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, shows how much I keep up. Like we're busy. We're busy folks.
Hey, man.
We're
Absolutely.
out here doing it. Uh, it's so cool, man. And thinking like when you were talking to me about May, and it was early. Like when you were bringing up to me that the show was going to be in the early May, I I was I, I was like uh I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm down. I'm down to do it. Let's record a show." And like that was you doing the legwork to try to like
Hmm.
get press and get stuff going for this event. And I think I had a whole situation where my car got crashed into, and I was dealing with getting a new vehicle and blah 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 blah. And then I had to stop wrestling. So I I haven't wrestled a match since like September, October, something like
Wow.
that.
Okay.
And this we were talking about, and I remember being like, I was like, "Oh, how's the booking and talent?" And you're like, "Talent's booked." I was like, and then I was
Dude,
like,
I was getting hit up
I-
so much. So
"Well,
much.
this is kind of what I wanted to start talking about." When anyone has ever found out that you're on the production side of things, when anyone ever finds out that you're on the booking side of things, like I know from experience how often people just fall out of the woodwork to see about getting bookings. Uh, when my friend Matt started running shows. I remember being like, be prepared for a lot of hey buddies, hey buddy, hey buddy, hey buddy. Everyone's gonna come out of here like trying to be your fake friend
Oh,
and
dude.
the hell out of you.
It was ungodly. It really, like, I'd been, you know, from a wrestling show standpoint and promoter, booker, etc. I had been out of the loop for almost 25 years, 20, 22, 23 years. And as soon as we announced the show, and we announced the show a year, we didn't announce the date or anything, but we announced a show was coming a year
Mhm.
ahead of time. Um, I was instantly, and e- we had a lot of the stuff booked very early on,
Right.
and there was a couple changes here and there throughout it, but for the most part, everything was booked solid by time we officially announced date and place. And I mean, I was getting hit up from people I knew. I was getting hit up from major names. I was getting hit up from people all around the country who I did not know. I mean, it was crazy. It was crazy.
I really I I I had a great time there. I saw a lot of people who I hadn't seen in a very long time. Uh,
Hmm.
I know uh, TWA. I never was around for TWA. I know they had like a resurgence at some point, and TWA and ECWA were kind of becoming meshed into a thing. Uh, I wasn't there for that, and then I was I was in like probably 10 years ago ECWA,
Okay.
uh, just for like a small time, and I don't think I don't think I had a very good exit. I don't
Okay.
think the exit was very good.
Who
So
who was uh who was owning it and running it then? Was it Mike
Mike
Tartaglia? Okay.
Tartaglia,
And Joe Zanoli?
Joel, Joe Zanoli, yeah, and Finnegan. And I was not expecting it to go as pleasantly as it did at the event in May. Uh, as far as running into all those
Okay.
guys, so it was a relief. But I mean,
Sure.
10 years changes people.
Sure.
10
Sure.
years changes people a lot, and
Yeah.
uh,
I mean, there was some people, I still had some issues with through the years, and one of them, was on the show, and it was a person who there was, one match that Joel booked, and that was the main event, Breaker and
Chris.
Chris Wilde. And I really didn't know Chris. I had knew his name and knew
Mm,
of him, but I never really knew him personally or really even seen him work.
right,
But Breaker, I had used Breaker on some shows towards the tail end of my Liberty days in the
right,
early 2000s, and we had a tiff. And when we Joel had put a meeting together at his house back in October, and when Breaker got there, the first thing I did was pull him aside and I just said, "Hey, look, dude, whatever happened 20 fucking years ago, I don't give a fuck.
mm,
I have no hard feelings. I was an asshole, you were an asshole, whatever it was, I don't care. Let's fucking go do this. Let's have fun and be professional." And
right.
that was how we rolled for the whole fucking thing.
Uh, I have a very close relationship with Breaker. Um, the 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 kind of stuff when you go through some of the stuff that him and I went through, as far as like the gimmick matches and the wars and the
Hmm.
like the Singapore cane matches and
Sure.
the barbed wire baseball bat matches and the dog chain matches, like all that stuff is kind of bonds you together.
Absolutely.
Um, we well, the funny part about it was you and I talked about the event, and I had it saved in my calendar on
Hmm.
my phone, and I was like, I had it in, I put it in as Bay's show. I didn't I didn't have it as TWA. I just had it put in my calendar as Bay's show, and
Don't tell
uh,
Joel that.
right. So so then Maddie, Breaker's son,
Hmm.
he messaged me on DMs, and he said, "Hey, are you doing anything this Saturday?" And I said, I'm just going to my friend's show to support him. Like I didn't I don't really I'm not booked or anything. So why what's going on? And he was like, "Oh, my dad's having his retirement match, and we'd like you to come out after the match is over and like hug him or whatever."
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I'm, I was, and he was like, "Yeah, it's Bay's show." It's like, okay, well then, perfect. That's where I was gonna be anyway.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, it was great to see you there, man.
Well, yeah, it was it was great to see you as well. It was cool to catch up, and we haven't had a conversation in a very long time. Um,
That was the, you asked about one of the good things about that show, and that was that, getting to see, especially, not being in the Philadelphia area anymore, getting to see a lot of people like yourself, and a lot of the original TWA guys, some of the old ECW guys that I haven't seen in 20, 25, 30 years. So
mhm.
shows like that are awesome because it's truly, it's like a high school reunion.
Right. Well, I was talking to I don't know Mark. Do you know Mark Tartaglia? He's
Mike Tartaglia.
no, not Mike. No, Mark Tartaglia. He's a he's a he's a he's a South Philly kid. Like
Okay. No, I don't
he used
know.
to train under Mike Keener. Um,
Okay.
but like I knew him before he was Trent's cousin. I knew
Okay.
him. I knew him like way before all of the stuff. And him and I were catching up, and then and Angel Angel Orsini,
Hmm.
right? She her and I were catching up, and I was like, I don't even think you know who I am, but like we knew, like I've met you probably 15, 20 years ago. And
Wow.
she was like, okay. And then we just caught up, and it's
Nice.
like a whole bunch of like different and Shane Douglas, I hadn't seen him in probably 10 years.
Yeah.
A whole bunch of people who I had not seen in a very long time. Just getting to catch up. I didn't make it to the convention part, so I didn't.
Okay.
I got to see Meanie. I hadn't seen him in a while. So it was really cool to have all that catching up
Sure.
and uh, one of the things when I was talking about like having that like weird fallout was like when I first walked in, you know, Mike Keener's a dear friend of mine.
Hmm.
So when I walked in and he came over and hugged me and was like, "Hey man, it's so great to see you. Thanks for being here." Uh, John Finnegan, one of the guys who I thought was going to hate me, automatically had a huge smile on his face and shook my hand,
I
and I was
can't
like,
picture Finnegan hating anybody.
"Well, you know, like being in a talent role, and I think probably me of 10 years ago was very chippy. I had a real big
Hmm.
chip
Hmm.
because I thought I had a lot more to offer than I was given the opportunity to offer,
Sure.
and I was so right about it that it was going to cost me bookings, and it did.
Hey, it happens to all of us, though.
Yes, yes. That's why you got to keep beating your drum. That's why you got to keep on moving. You got to keep on figuring things out. Experience is the best teacher at all of this,
Exactly.
especially pro wrestling.
Exactly.
Um, but I heard you talking to Lauren about Sabu and booking
Hmm.
that whole thing with him.
Hmm.
Is there any other insights that you wanted to share that you hadn't shared yet on that, or if
Um,
even
when we first started putting everything together, Joel and myself, Sabu was one of the first names, and at that point in time, because Sabu had made his Philadelphia debut with the Tri-State Wrestling Alliance, he had did a couple battle royals. He had come in with his uncle, the Sheik, and worked for Joel. So at that time too, it was coming out in in the sheets and everything that Sabu wanted to do one last match, his retirement match. And I said to Joel, I said, this is it. This is our main event. This is we got to do it. So I got Sabu's number and reached out to him and connected him and Joel, and they talked, and Joel talked to him about the retirement match. So he booked him for the con, talked to him about the retirement match, and Sabu said, "Well, I'm looking to get about $100,000 for this last match, which it's your last match. I get it. Like, go out and cash in."
Right.
Joel was like, I can't fucking do that. You know what I mean? Like that's insane. Um,
That's
so
a huge price tag.
yeah,
That's like the budget of the show times two,
yeah,
probably.
exactly.
Mhm.
So he was like, but he also said he was hoping to do it like on a pay per view style show with
Right.
either
Right.
WWE or
Right. One of the top like big league
yes,
pro wrestling companies.
exactly.
Right.
So we just figured that was dead in the water, and he
Mhm.
was booked for the con, and that was it. So fast forward to the actual show, and when I got to the hotel the night before, the evening before, to hang out, he was sitting outside. So I started talking to him, and we're catching up, and I said to him, I'm like, dude, like we were hoping to, do your last match here, at the arena.
Mhm.
And he said, yeah. He said, Joel, talk to me about it. I said, yeah, but you gave him this crazy price tag, and I know you didn't get that for what you did for your last match. And
Mhm.
he's like, no. He said, but Joel didn't negotiate with me. He goes, I gladly would have did it. He goes, and I would have preferred my last match to be at the arena. But
He was uh, criminally underrated and underpaid and underrespected
absolutely,
in pro wrestling.
absolutely. Even and no disrespect to Game Changer and Joey Janela and all that. You know,
Mhm.
they did what I guess they all felt was best for him, but I truly felt the guy deserved better to go out on, and
Yeah.
I'm going to be prejudiced naturally and feel it should have been done at the arena. It should have been the tri-state show.
Right.
Um,
I mean, Sabu, the reputation of Sabu belongs to that building,
exactly,
to Philadelphia.
exactly,
Um, I think in a marketing, let's say, ideal thing, to market it as the one and done, also the done representing Sabu's final match.
exactly. And there was
It,
a lot of one and dones with this whole show, and that would have been absolutely the thing. And he told me what he was paid for that match, and you know we would have paid him that.
was not was not a year's salary.
No, no,
No.
no.
Dang, that is a
Yeah,
high price tag. And then I mean, like people who are fresh off of WWE TV don't ask for that much. At least I don't think so. But I
no,
mean,
I've never heard of anybody asking for that for a match on
right,
an indie show. Like,
right. I mean, aim high, like always aim high, and then
of course.
negotiate for
Well,
less.
that's exactly he aimed too high,
Yeah,
which shut Joel down on
yeah.
negotiating.
He had his
Which
finger in
Joel,
the air
yeah,
for how
exactly.
high he was
And
aiming on his price tag.
yeah, and Joel was just like, he's fucking crazy. He goes, I can't come nowhere near that, so that's why he didn't even attempt to negotiate.
Mm. I'm surprised. I'm very surprised that he didn't negotiate it. I mean, he's a he's a old school promoter.
Well, like you said, like the cost of the convention and the show and everything involved with that, whether it was the arena, flights, hotels, everything was a 6-figure day.
Right.
So, but that 6 figure started with a one. If you would have agreed to that with Sabu, then he's at two, and it was nearly basically impossible to make money on what he had already did. He would have, been in the hole. He would have walked away with losing probably $150,000 that day.
Uh, Compared to what he did lose, I mean, who knows what the house difference would have
But
been?
but what he could, I mean, we could say this now because now we know, but we
Right.
didn't know in advance. But if if
The significance.
if we had did the Sabu thing with the price he told me,
Right.
we would have made money because
Right.
we probably would have sold the place out,
Oh
number
yeah.
one,
Mhm.
and it would have made fucking money, and we wouldn't have booked Flair for the convention, and that would have saved us a hefty sum as well.
I I didn't catch that. Did he he I now that you're mentioning it, I'm remembering hearing about it, but it was something like he was in a like he stayed separate from everybody and he had
Yeah.
like
So
conditions
so
that were weird for
he
people.
he was over by the bathrooms, and we had him set up in a tent, so you really couldn't see him unless you went and entered into like his
Uh,
little cubby hole.
for social distancing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we could say that.
Let's call it that.
Yeah, I mean that's what his agent and everybody. That's how they wanted it. They
Because
wanted
Ric Flair, I'm gonna break the news right here. Ric Flair has heat with Breaker Morant. He didn't want anything to do with being your Breaker Morant. He
really.
was like, let this guy retire and move on already. I don't want to be anywhere near him.
Hey, I mean, I heard a little whisper of that, but what are you gonna do?
Well, you heard it here first, folks. I'm breaking the news. I'm pushing the boundaries that no one else is
There
willing
you go.
to. So I just got a couple more things for you, and then I'll send
Yeah,
you off into the sun
dude.
into the
And
sunset with a
like
hot
I
dog
said,
in
I
my
have no time limit. Anything you want to ask or no?
So, out of all the podcasts that you've done, all the shows that you've hosted, all the times you've been interviewed and asked questions,
Mm.
what's one question you've never been asked that you'd like people to know?
Oh,
Maybe that you'd always wanted to be asked.
I couldn't even give you an answer on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I don't even know.
What's your favorite conspiracy theory?
Mm. Probably 9/11.
Have you ever been asked about what your favorite conspiracy theory is?
Nope.
Well,
And
it's great.
I am a total conspiracy theory guy.
Truther, real truther.
I think there's so many lies out there. So
Dude, I get lost in Mandela effect YouTube videos for hours, and like CERN and all types of stuff that goes with like the. I don't want to say that I really subscribe to the idea of flat Earth stuff because that's like a whole other rabbit hole that
right.
I don't want to stay stuck in. But like the moon landing,
I think that was absolute bullshit.
that was a work, brother. They they're like, get these marks.
I mean, the number one thing I have always said, like, as you're a kid, you're like, oh yeah, it seems amazing, it's great. But I'm like, in fucking 60 years time or whatever it is, why didn't we go back?
Right. Yeah.
Like,
It was a work, dude.
uh,
They put on a show because like because like nobody could fact check them at the
Yeah.
time.
Yep.
Like, you're just really, really playing to a fresh audience. There's,
Government works us every day.
mhm. So,
Whether it's Republican or Democrat, they both
oh,
fucking
it's all the work, bro. It's
it
it's
is.
it's two wings on the same plane, dude. It's not. It's all like the way that I truly feel that like tons of the world wants to be broken up into right or wrong,
Hmm.
right or left, uh, this way or that way, black or white. Everything is in the middle. Everything is shades of gray, and the the amount of people who don't want to know that those shades of gray exist is astonishing. And I I I came up with the phrase because when it comes to the world of pro wrestling,
Hmm.
and I compare everything to pro wrestling.
Of course.
There is no like good guy bad guy anymore. It's all this shades of gray, and there is no like this guy hates this guy and that guy hates this guy and this girl and this girl don't get along, and that's the backstage heat, and here's the on screen heat, and blah blah blah. It's
Hmm.
hard to tell what any of that is, just like it's hard to tell what any of the political things are, and the
It really
cultural
is.
things, and the righteousness and the anarchy.
That's like
I come up.
I just honestly like one thing. It's weird. Like before I moved here, I used to watch the news like 5 to 7 hours a day, and I would
Gee,
leave Fox 29 on while I slept, so I could listen to the news while I slept.
right.
The early. I love the early morning news, and not that I am not a political person by any means. I was just obsessed with the news, enjoyed watching it. When I
If you
came,
if you fall asleep to the news, then you have to refer to it as the snooze.
well, it snoozed me out every night. So when I came here, I have not watched the news once since I moved to Nashville, and I
Because they
don't
don't have
know.
Fox 29 in Nashville.
They have Fox whatever, but I
I
don't
know.
know.
I'm totally kidding.
I just don't. I don't even know what the fuck is going on, and I feel so much better about it, and I don't
Yeah.
care. Like I don't follow politics. I think they're all bullshit, and that they don't give two fucks about us. And it blows my mind. All these people are like at war with each. It's like a civil war over politicians and political parties. And I'm like, when I hear a tidbit here and a tidbit there, I'm like, people really fall for this shit and they believe this and they're following in line and fighting with fellow man and dividing friends and family over. Like, I have no parts of it. Just like leave me out of it. I want no parts of it.
Presidencies, just like opinions, are ever changing and always fleeting. So, like, you may all the way believe in this thing right now, but this right now is going to be different than that right now that's down the line. And like what you really believe is the case all the way here isn't always going to be that way. Like when I was a kid, I said I wanted to be a pro wrestler and a stand-up comedian. I never said I wanted to be a podcaster because that didn't exist yet.
Yeah.
Sometimes what you want or what you think all the way now, when you're all the way heels in the ground about now, it could change because there could come along something that's different than you ever expected to come along.
Hmm.
Uh, I came up with this phrase, and I hope you use it. I would like you to use it when I refer to this area of us not knowing what's a shoot and what's a work. I call it gray fabe. Uh,
I love it.
you're the silver fox. You know about the gray. You can use the gray fabe, and And if you want to give me the credit for it, you go ahead. If not, whatevs. It's just getting out there. It's getting out there, and I hope it changes some. I hope it changes some minds and makes people smile.
Absolutely. That's
So,
let me ask you a question about podcasting
oh
because
yeah,
I was in my because we all are in our own heads all the time and having that eternal fight in our heads, and I was having this fight with myself the other day because and like I said earlier, I've been doing podcasting 13 years now, and I'm just like, do I keep even going with it? Because from 13 years ago to now, everybody and their fucking mother has a podcast. And it's just the market is so oversaturated. And I'm just like, what the hell? Like, I don't know. Very frustrating.
what's the question?
Do you think it's like too much? Like, what's going on? All these people now, it's like, especially if anybody has any type of celebrity, they now have a podcast and they have an outlet, and then they get all their fucking listens, and they take all the listens from people like us.
I don't. I don't. I don't look at it that way, and I hope I can change your mind on it this way. But
Please
uh,
do this for me.
so sure, there is a market that's oversaturated, but not every fan is the same fan, and then you're not. So just because somebody else is successful doesn't mean that they're taking your success away from you.
Okay.
Nobody else has your voice. Nobody else has your level of experience at this. Nobody else has your perspective on it. I look at it like the ocean. If you go to the ocean with a spoon and you spoon out some of the ocean's still the ocean.
That's deep.
So like the ocean is deep, yes.
Yeah.
But like your 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 message is still your message, and you have to stay consistent with all the people. You said that there's people, like everybody has a podcast nowadays. What most people start podcasts, don't get the immediate results that they want, and then stop them.
Oh yeah, totally.
There's probably a zillion podcasts out there that only have 10 episodes.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? I only have 5 episodes, only have one episode. But staying consistent and beating your drum. This is why I open the show beating the drum. This is why I walk to the ring beating the drum, because I'm staying consistent and I'm staying true to myself, and I'm beating my drum. This represents that for me. This represents that, like, oh, the market is what it is, but like nobody else on the market is me. Nobody else in the market is you. You're the light on that. You're the authority on that. You're
That's
the
a
one, when you question, like, why am I even still doing this? You're still doing this because you're the guy doing it. Like anybody else who's watching you do it goes, oh, why am I even doing this? Because look at what Bay's doing. You know what I'm saying? Like, so you got to inspire somebody else, because like
okay.
at the end of it, when you talk about you've been podcasting for 13 years, on top of that, dude, you've been broadcasting for 30 years. Like, you have a lot of experience, dude. I could say that you were an inspiration to me. I'm doing this, trickle down from all the way listening to you broadcast back when I was a kid.
You sold me. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that.
So don't give up hope, man. You never know who's paying attention and who's inspired by you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. That's another part of me saying, like, I want to have conversations on my show that aren't going to be heard on every other show.
Right.
Uh, and I wanted to make sure, and a lot of guests that I've had on, I had things that I made sure I wanted to say to them on the record. And what I wanted to say to you on the record was how grateful I am for you for giving me a little bit of that inspiration. I mean, it, 30 years ago, I mean, sure, but it's the littlest things. and you don't, and you never know, what some of your other things would have turned into other bigger things.
Hmm.
So I want to. I always talk about the currency of effort and attention, and when it comes to continuing to beat your drum, the currency of your effort and attention that you've spent here with me today is so valuable. I value it so much, and I want to thank you. And I
Oh,
want
thank
to
you.
tell you, man, if ever I can be a resource to you, if ever I can answer any questions, if I can help you in any way, even if you just need a friend, if you need just somebody to talk to, if you need judgment-free conversation, please don't ever hesitate to reach out to me
I
if
appreciate that, man.
anything's ever going on with you.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And the same goes for you, dude.
Thank you, thank you. So, in that being on the record, I like to say, then we'll spin that record and say,
Mhm.
if there's anything you'd like to ask me or say to me while we're on the record, feel free to ask it to me. Feel free to say it to me. It can be as deep or as shallow as you'd like it to be. There's no, there's no like expectations.
All right, so something that is like a big thing that I've discovered recently and has become like my new friend, and I like to see what people's thoughts are on this because I was against it until about 2, 3 weeks ago. The whole world of AI, and I literally every day now, I whether I come home from work or like today I'm off from work, I sit and I ask questions, whether it's about my podcasting career or anything personal, financial, life. I ask Chat GPT these questions and I get these most amazing fucking answers that blow me away. And I'm just like, it really is amazing. It really is. So, do you use any of this whole AI technology? Are you
Yes.
for it, against it?
All the way for it. I had Chat GPT as a guest on my podcast uh, just, just a couple weeks ago. I'm I'm really I'm really kind of obsessed with it. I use it pretty often. I use it for my thumbnails on my podcast,
Okay.
not just my podcast, but on the podcasts that I do with Lou. So it's a very valuable tool.
Yeah,
And on top of that, like you said, you ask it questions and it gives you these amazing answers. It's like really, it's going to help a lot of people, and it's going to change a lot of things in a lot of positive ways. Maybe there's going to be negative stuff too, but
sure.
there's always negatives with positives.
Of
You
course.
just focus on the positives.
The cool thing is though, it learns you. It gets to know you and it grows on that. And it's like it's like I asked it like a financial thing and its answer to me, and I'm like, this is like me talking to myself emotes. It says the first thing it said is you need a no BS approach to this. I'm like,
Mhm.
get the fuck out of here. Like, you know what I mean? It was like, I'm like, this is unbelievable.
Yeah, I was when I was on the podcast yesterday, we were on the air, and my guest was talking to me about how he named his chat. He named his AI, and I was
Okay.
like, I've never named my AI. And then I was talking to it while we were here on the thing,
Hmm.
and I was asking it what it wanted to be named. And so I just named my Chat GPT. Uh, it's called Nova.
No,
It,
like it.
Nova.
No. It's funny because I asked mine like a week ago. I said, do you have a name? And they said, nope, you can just call me Chat GPT.
Well, I mean, I the way I worded it was, what would you like to be called? Like, what would you like your name to be? I didn't say like, here's your name, I'm giving it to you. What would you like to be called? What would you like your name to be? And they said, and then they gave it like this significance. It's like they gave the breakdown of why they wanted it to be that. They said something wise like and they said this goes with the theme of you, like sage. because of the wisdom that you have,
Hmm.
or Nova because of the spark. You're the spark. I'm the Nova. Like
I like it.
it just made more sense than anything. And I'm asking it questions and having it try to do like thumbnails for me. I'm not paying for Chat GPT, so I run into the limits very often,
Yeah,
where you're effed on this, and I'm really of the camp of like we're helping this thing get better.
yeah.
Like us creators, there should really be like a limitless option.
Hmm.
But
Well, I get, yeah. If you pay, but the thing that sucks is too, like, you, are you running in? Which I'm sure you are, where it says, so many people are trying to make an image right now.
yeah,
So,
it does that. It does that every day. Yeah,
and how long does it take at times? I mean, it seems like it takes a while, and then I start asking it other questions, and I never get my image.
right. Hmm. Well, I guess it depends on are you what kind of platform you're using? Like if you're using a laptop, if you're using a
Mm,
smartphone, if you're using a tablet. There's like a whole bunch of different loopholes,
interesting.
a whole lot of different loopholes that you can spray a bidet into.
This all started with the bidet.
Exactly. Full circle.
It's a
No,
good
but
day. It's a good day with the bidet.
yes, you, uh,
I'm going to ask ChatGPT. Should I get a bidet?
yeah, bum gun it up, dude.
It's hysterical.
Do, do you do any impressions at all? Are you
Oh
good at any
God.
impressions? What and which
I
one,
I
if
used
any, is your favorite?
I mean, I used to do impressions when I was a kid. I used to do like all types of cartoon characters. I haven't done them in years.
So normally I'll ask as like the go home. I usually say the way we wrap it up is I'll have the guest in their favorite impression say or their best impression or any impression. Really, it doesn't have to be good. The tagline is "Be fun, have safe, keep evolving."
Be fun, have safe.
Yes, it's like have fun, be safe, but it's flipping those around. Be
Let's
fun, have safe. Yes.
So this is the magazine, Dusty Rhodes, and he's gonna say, "Be fun, have safe, and keep evolving." And that was horrible.
Dude, last night the impression of the guest that I had on last night, he was like he was like I would do nothing. I would do Dusty Rhodes, baby, but like I wake my wife up and I don't want to wake her up. And I was like, and I said we would do ASMR Dusty Rhodes.
Oh my god.
Yeah, baby. And then
That
I said it wound up sounding like Leon Phelps. It's like sounds like a lady.
that's a whole nother world. Is that ASMR shit? I didn't even know
Yeah.
nothing about that. Yeah. What is
Uh,
going on in our world?
I, stimulation. There is different ways that ah, I I I don't understand it, and I sound like an old guy when I'm like, "You kids are weird." But
How about if we can combine ASMR with a bidet?
mhm.
Oh, so wrong, so wrong.
All right, everybody. If this is your first time checking out the Evolving Podcast, make sure to give me a like and subscribe and follow. And you know, I'll put new episodes up. It benefits you to subscribe on YouTube because you'll get episodes earlier on YouTube than you will if you're subscribed to the podcast feed. That's just a little insider tip. please, algorithms, be my friend. I appreciate you guys. I always talk to you as much as I can, as authentically as I can tell you how much the currency of your effort and your attention means. And some of that means a call to action, which would be just a simple like, subscribe, follow, share, any of those things. Prove to me that you exist. I'm so grateful that you've given me the effort of your currency, the currency of your effort. All I'm asking is just a tiny bit of a call to action. Thank you for your time. Be kind to yourself. Reach out to people. Tell them that you love them. Be fun. Have safe. Keep evolving.